Sunglasses on, heat rising, temperature rising, and intensity rising. The highly anticipated summer series at Patchett Community Church is here. Elijah Schiarelli, Ellis Hobson, you can cut the tension out here with a knife.
That's right. We're amping up for 5 weeks of intense competition.
And spiritual truth.
That too, as PCC campuses from all over the Commonwealth send the best of the best to compete in this year's games.
It's going to be an absolute blast. I can't wait to catch up with some of our competitors. Here we go. From the Alick campus, Olympic veteran and team captain Sandra Moore will be teaming up with Olympic hopeful Sarah Harper in doubles fasting, one of the premier events in these games, dating all the way back to Moses himself, the original gold medalist in this category.
Yeah, a legend if I ever saw one, that's for sure.
Well, you never saw him because it was thousands of years ago.
Fair enough.
But that's okay. Just moments ago, Mark Tapscott, our online campus pastor and infield correspondent, caught up with the duo as they trained for today's qualifier.
So how do you train? How do you keep yourself in top condition?
I just don't eat anything. This is my spiritual gift. What are you doing? We didn't even have that.
Well, I wish you luck.
Thanks.
Back to you, Elijah.
From the beast from the east to the best from the west of the I-95, representing the mighty, mighty Farm, Michael Hedrick. Okay, great. What a pleasure it is to be in the presence of Olympic royalty, 3-time gold medalist in smooth stone juggling. Although disaster struck mere months ago when he failed to hit the medal stand during Worlds. Can he find redemption this summer? Let's go to Mark to find out.
3-time world champion of this event. He's dominated for almost a decade now. But in the Worlds, he didn't do so good. Michael, I have a question. What happened?
Listen, those rocks, they just flat out, they were not regulation rocks. And the judges are going to go in there and review those. And I have full confidence that it's going to come back that I actually won that event. I've still got it, and I'm going to prove that here today.
There you have it live from the field. Back to you, Elijah.
In an Olympic first, our Powhatan and Riverside campuses are joining forces to compete in 4x4 communion relay. And let's just say, the storylines are juicy this year.
Yeah, there's definitely been some intrigue fermenting in there for a while now, hasn't there?
Absolutely, Ellis. It all came to a head just weeks ago when the Olympic Committee made the controversial decision to switch from red wine to grape juice for the games. A decision that's caused a lot of drama around the sport. Grape juice or not, this team is poised to put up a fight when they hit the track in just a few weeks at the Commonwealth Arena.
You know, traditionally there's been a lot of talking in this sport, and that was true of this switch from wine to grape juice. Our team, we're just in it, man. We're just competitors. Give us whatever. It doesn't matter. We're going to put it down. You know, the wine, it did create a little burn, so I'm all good with the grape juice change, but we'll see how it comes out on the track.
Last on our coverage today, we have the Midlothian campus, represented by Tony Tamandel, by far the oldest Olympian to ever compete in these games, in the ever-dashing Paul, the baby maker, Myers.
Their road to Olympic glory hasn't been an easy one, Elijah.
No, it has not, Ellis. Doubles geese chasing, it's not for the faint of heart.
Oh.
And from the fight these geese have been putting up at our Midlothian campus, I'd say these boys have a tough hill to climb if they want to find the medal stand this year.
Tony, I understand folks are just flocking to your campus these days. Tell me, what's your secret? How are you doing that?
What?
Yeah, people are flocking to your campus, and I hear you have some geese there. How you going with the geese?
It's been bad.
What makes you think you're going to do well in this event?
We've practiced.
You practice?
We practice, yeah. And by the way, this is the only event where foul language is encouraged.
Right,
Yeah.
foul language.
Foul language.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, I've got a bird's eye view for the whole thing. I can't wait to see it, and we'll take it right back to you, Elijah.
You know, the parking lot there at Midlow has been kind of a crappy situation, if you ask me. Huh?
Ellis, do not encourage their behavior. Please be better.
Okay.
Needless to say, there's so much to be excited about during this summer series.
Yeah, so come to a campus near you if you can't. That's fine, because we're broadcasting worldwide via our online campus, including at Nottoway and VCCW.
Absolutely. We're going to give you the coverage you expect and deserve for what is set to be the best summer series yet. Signing off from the Commonwealth, Elijah Schiarelli, Ellis Hobson, reporting with PBN. We'll see you at church.
Look, shout out to all of our competitors at whatever campus you're at, but a special shout out to my boy Tanner for taking lukewarm grape juice on a 100-degree day straight to the eyeballs. A real team player. You know, the other day in a moment of downtime I had, I was scrolling through YouTube and I noticed that my feed was full of Olympic-themed videos. And that makes sense, considering the Olympics are about to happen or kind of happening right now. There were video essays on Usain Bolt, replays of Simone Biles' craziest feats, recent Olympic trials, and more. However, one video caught my eye due to just how absurd the title was. It was called Michael Phelps, the ultimate compilation of all 23 gold medals. And I didn't do a double take. 23 gold medals? I mean, I remember when Phelps first started winning medals in the Olympics. I was 14, 2004, Athens, and there he would win his first 6 gold medals when he was just 19. Now, that stat alone is amazing in its own right, and even just having 6 would have earned him a top 30 spot on the all-time gold medals list, but clearly, he was far from done. And I guess I had forgotten just how dominant he was for many years to come, because after that amazing showing in Athens, 4 years later, he would break the record for most gold medals in a single Olympic Games, taking home 8 first-place finishes in Beijing. And it's worth mentioning that he only competed in 8 events that year. So if his career had stopped right there, he would have still been recognized as the winningest Olympian of all time. Instead, 8 years and 2 Olympic Games later, he'd go on to win an additional 9 gold medals for the U.S., which would only add to his incredible, arguably untouchable legacy. He is beyond a doubt the greatest Olympian of all time, and it's not close. In fact, the person with the second most gold medals in an Olympic career is a woman named Larissa Latynina, a Russian-born gymnast with a measly 9. It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. But what makes Phelps' achievement so impossible really is just how rare it is for someone to even win a single Olympic gold. Since 1896, when data was first recorded on this, just under 5,500 gold medals have been awarded, which means that at the most, only 5,500 people have ever won one. And we know that it's not that high because of people like Phelps and others who have won multiple medals. But even ignore that for a second. 5,500 people doesn't sound like, it sounds like kind of a lot. Until you consider that roughly 260 people are born every minute on this planet, which means there will have been more people born by the time I'm done talking today than there have ever been gold medalists. Of course, all that is to say nothing about the silver and bronze medals, which are also exceedingly difficult to earn. And in all 3 cases, these medals have become synonymous with individual achievement and a lifetime of hard work. Having just one can change a person's life forever. And that's why they're so coveted and precious. Gold, silver, and bronze mean glory and fame for Olympic athletes. But their place in human history goes far beyond the arena. These medals specifically, gold, silver, and bronze, are present in nearly every aspect of life. Fashion, economics, infrastructure, weaponry, education, and a whole lot more. And they're important, symbolic medals for us today, just like they were in biblical times. In the way they were used and the symbols they represented then have so much to teach us here today. So this summer, I hope you're going to cheer for your favorite to go for the gold, watch them take the medal stand. But also, let's look at how these medals are mentioned in the Bible. Let's discover what they would have meant for God's people throughout history and what they can mean for us now in a series that we're calling That's So Metal. But before we really get into it, though, I'd like to pray for us one more time this morning. Would you pray with me? God, thank you so much for this moment and just the ability to be here, God, with you in the middle of what you're trying to do, God. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your voice. So would you give us ears to hear it, God? Would you speak to us today? We love you and we thank you. Amen. So we're going to kick off this series in Luke chapter 15. It's one of my all-time favorite chapters in the Bible because it's full of stories like the one we're going to dig into today. Luke 15 begins by telling us that the Pharisees, or the religious leaders of Jesus' day, are lamenting the fact that Jesus was associating himself with sinners. In fact, verse 1 tells us that they muttered their dissatisfaction with Jesus, which ought to tell us all we need to know about where their hearts were. But instead of Jesus clapping back at them and for being out of touch and off base, he does what he does better than anyone else. He tells some stories. And the first one he tells is about a lost sheep. And if you don't know what I'm referring to there, I cannot encourage you enough to go check out Luke 15 later today. It'll take you 5 minutes to read. It's incredible. But the second story he tells is just like the first, and that's the one we're going to dive into today. It goes like this. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. See, on the surface of this parable, which is a fictitious story designed to reveal a spiritual truth, the takeaway, if you will, it's revealed right here at the end. And Jesus doesn't always do that with his stories, but in this one, he does. And since Jesus is the master storyteller, we can already assume there's a reason why, but we're not going to get into that right now. I'd be getting ahead of myself. Instead, we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to break this story down, starting with the reason we decided to use it for the series to begin with, the coin, the silver coin. Suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Right away, Jesus sets the stage in a way that would have perked the ears of his intended audience. Just a moment ago, we discussed the Pharisees grumbling over the fact that Jesus was speaking to sinners. And I keep saying that word with air quotes because in their context, sinners weren't simply people who had committed sin because, that would have been everybody. It was a more loaded word than that. See, when a religious leader would call someone a sinner, wrapped up in there were inferences of lesser than and second rate or outcast, difficult, poor, helpless. It's fair to say that most Pharisees looked down on these people as if they were better than them, and they definitely felt holier than thou. So there's Jesus surrounded by Pharisees and sinners, the outcasts, the forgotten, the poor, the disenfranchised. He begins his story this way. Suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. It couldn't be clearer. The message he's about to deliver, it's not for the religious elite. It's for the sinner. Because not only is the character in the story a woman, which would have already put her closer to being a sinner than a man would have been in Jesus' day, but she only has 10 silver coins to her name. So she's a poor woman. And on those facts alone, she would have been assumed to be a sinner by the Pharisees. But Jesus continues, he tells us that she loses a silver coin somewhere in the house. Can relate. I'm going to go ahead and assume everyone here today can relate as well. Maybe not about losing a silver coin, but your wallet, yeah, the remote, your phone, my wife, a chapstick, also my wife, your keys, me, me. I can't tell you how many times I've lost my keys under the couch, in a random drawer, the pockets of the last pants I wore, a random pouch on my backpack. Dude, I've lost my keys assuming they weren't where they were supposed to be. I've spent 30 minutes looking for my keys everywhere but the key hook by the door. Because why would I put them where they belong? What kind of dummy does something like that? Here's a quick story about losing my keys. When Oakland was 2, she's my daughter, I had hyped her up like crazy about surprising Megan at work and eating lunch there. She worked at a restaurant. And I made the rookie mistake of promising my 2-year-old a good time before I knew if I could actually execute on said good time, which I know, parents, I was young and dumb, okay? But I have learned. Anyway, as we go to leave, I can't find the keys. Now, again, that's not out of the norm for me, but after like 20 minutes of searching and having to answer the "are we going to leave soon" question 20 more times than that, I decided I just got to call Megan. She's at work, but I got to call her. As it turns out, she's a whole lot better at remembering where things are, which I know shocks all of you. So I asked her, hey babe, do you know where my keys are? She said, yes, I do. They're in my car. You know, the car she has at work with her. Awesome. What's even better about that is there was really no conceivable reason for those keys to be in there ever. At the time, they didn't have a key to her car on them. So they were just in there because I suck, I guess. So I hung up the phone and told Oakland, we're not going, we can't go, because I left the keys in Mama's car. And after the disappointment went away, which took a long time, by the way, she went on for like the next year or so, randomly, at any time, reminding me that I left my keys in Mama's car. I lose so many things, but in reality, I can't completely relate to the woman who lost her coin. I mean, when I lose things, they're usually minor inconveniences. In most cases, I can take my time finding them, or sometimes I can just replace it, only, of course, to find the one that I had lost when the new one arrives, but whatever. The woman in this story, she didn't just lose something small. She didn't just lose a silver coin. She lost a significant portion of her income. Remember, she only had 10 silver coins to her name, which meant losing one was literally losing 10% of all the money she had. And if we put ourselves in that context, if we imagine losing 10% of all the money we have, suddenly it's not a minor inconvenience anymore. Can't just replace that. Finding that money probably skyrockets to the top of our priority list. And as Jesus tells us, this is exactly what happens to her. Suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? See, this isn't like searching for the things we typically lose around the house. Again, when I can't find the remote, I eventually just give up. And I either use my phone, because you can do that now, or I just do something else. When I misplace my wallet, sometimes I give up and just drive to where I'm going without it. Which, yeah, maybe I shouldn't admit to driving without a license sometimes, but I know I'm not the only one, you sinners, okay? The search for this lost coin, however, that's different. When the woman realizes that she's lost the coin, the all-out search begins. Whatever she's doing gets put on hold. She makes the house as bright as possible, pulls out all the tools she has, like the broom and the lamp, moves all the furniture, and searches until what she lost is found. And this isn't a half-hearted search effort. This isn't a lazy attempt at recovering her coin. This is the one thing she cares about in this moment, because if she doesn't find it, there will be major consequences for her. No food on the table, struggling to make ends meet. I mean, if she doesn't find it, her life will get significantly harder than it already is. Which is why when she does finally find it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. You can sense the relief she must be feeling in this moment. Her worries about what tomorrow might bring, they melt away. Her fear of not being able to feed herself or her family if she has one, it's gone. The prospect of her not being able to keep up with the bills or taxes because she's already living paycheck to paycheck, as it were, that's taken care of, at least in this moment. She's able to breathe a sigh of relief because she can confidently face the next day. She's so excited about finding her lost coin that she invites her friends and family over for a party because she knows the precious thing that was lost is now found. Jesus tells parables in order to bring spiritual truths to life for those who hear him. As Pastor Pope told us a few weeks ago, Jesus invites anyone who has ears to hear to listen. So while he tells this story in part to sort of let the Pharisees know, hey, y'all got this all wrong. These people you call sinners, they're exactly the people I came to save. I mean, that's part of it. His story is designed to reach the second class and the low status, the poor, the outcast, the disenfranchised people he came to teach. And it's why he uses a story that resonates with his target more than it does those religious leaders. See, they wouldn't know what it was like to search so desperately for something that, to them, has no real value. Certainly not enough value to turn over the whole house to find. They wouldn't know what it meant to be so desperate to find something that they would deem insignificant. It just wouldn't compute in their minds. They wouldn't put the pieces together that this woman, to her, the silver coin meant so much more than it did to them. It just wouldn't make sense. They'd be too caught up in their disdain for Jesus and his teachings to catch the message. But for Jesus' true audience, they'd be able to see themselves in the story right away. Because it's likely that many of them had searched high and low in order to find something like a silver coin. They've been in the shoes of the woman who stopped everything in order to find the one thing she couldn't go on without. But I think even they could have missed the real point of this parable if they weren't careful. Because although the story is told for them, it's told in their language, it reflects a message about God and his heart and his kingdom that they probably weren't used to hearing. Certainly not from their religious leaders. So let's make sure that they and we catch the real message here by putting ourselves in the parable. And this is what they were kind of designed to let us do after all. But before we do that, I need to exclude us from being one character, and that's the woman herself. As one of my biblical college professors told me, you got to insert yourself into all these Bible stories, but never as Jesus. The assumption is that the woman in Jesus' parable is himself or God. And therefore, that role's taken. We can't fill that role. So what other characters are there really in the story? Well, I think there are 4, which we're not going to have time to cover in depth today, but here they are. You have the other 9 coins. You have the tools like the lamp and the broom. You have the lost coin and the rejoicing friends. And I believe the rest of us here today fit into one of these 4. Each plays a role in the party and the celebration Jesus describes at the end of the parable. So let's begin with the other 9 coins. In Jesus' parable, these 9 coins are there to represent those who aren't lost, but rather accounted for and in Jesus' possession. These coins are those of us who have already been found by Jesus and have accepted his gift of forgiveness and compassion and grace and salvation. We've made the decision to follow Jesus with our lives, and our reward for that is being in the presence of God already, where there is safety and contentment and peace and joy. And several of us here today fall into this group. If that's you, I am so excited for you, because what a gift it is to be known and seen by God. But the next would be the tools. And I know that's an unfortunate way to put it, but I mean, that's what they are, right? They are tools in the parable. The woman lights a lamp, uses a broom to sweep the floor in order to find the lost coin. And in the same way, God uses some of us to help those who are lost and bring them with us back to God. And if we're open and willing to go where God calls us, then we don't have to only be a part of the other 9 coins. We can become instruments of God's goodness and redemption in a world that so desperately needs it. In this summer season, where your church is literally sending hundreds of people all across the world to do just that, it ought to make your heart so happy to know that your church, our church, is taking seriously the call to be the hands and feet of Jesus wherever he sends us. Let's talk about another one. We're going to skip to the bottom and talk about the rejoicing friends. Because as you know, once the lost coin is found, the woman invites her friends and family to celebrate that the lost thing is now found. And it's safe to assume that her friends and family, they're probably of similar economic status to her. So they would know what it was like to find something precious when they had lost it. They would have been so eager to celebrate the coin's return because they've been there before. Some of us know exactly what it was like to be lost before we were found. We can remember the person we were before a friend asked us to come to church and hear more about this Jesus guy. It feels like yesterday that we spent our days full of fear and anxiety and a sense of hopelessness about the future. But now that we've been found, we want that for everybody else. And once we see it happen, we can't help but rejoice. Some of us are in this role. And if that's you, then there's no better time of year here at PCC because all of our campuses are having baptisms throughout the summer. And baptism is the outward sign that someone who was lost has been found. So make an effort to celebrate that this summer at a campus near you or in September when we all get together and do it. And that leads nicely to the last character in the story, the one the story is about really, the lost coin. Some of you here today are the lost coin. You walked in, tuned in online for one reason or another. Maybe you were invited by somebody you respect, so you came. Or you drove by one of our campuses and felt the unexplainable nudge deep inside of you to pull in. Maybe your parents forced you to come, and even right now, you'd rather be anywhere else than here. Or maybe you're just so desperate for something different that you gave it a try because, well, what else do you have to lose? I don't know what your story is or how you got here. And I can't say with any certainty what you're going through currently today either, but maybe you wake up every morning wondering how you're going to survive today. You feel so stuck and alone where you are now because your job's not panning out. The dreams you had when you were younger feel impossible. You don't have anyone you feel like you can go to sort out your feelings. But before those feelings and that feeling and sense of dread can wash over you, you roll over and you just start scrolling on your phone. It's easier to just forget about all that, to tune it out rather than to give in to those thoughts. Eventually, you force yourself out of bed because if you don't, you're going to be late for a job you really don't like, but you have to have in order to pay your bills, to buy groceries because, geez, they're expensive right now, to keep the house or your apartment or the room you're renting with your buddy or the room at your parents' house. You got to keep them going. So you spend 8 to 10 hours working, head home, maybe cook a meal, maybe order takeout because you're exhausted physically and mentally. Either way, you decide you've got to unwind and decompress from the stressful day you had. And what better way to do that than by streaming something on the TV, throwing on Netflix or something? Before you know it, you wake up on the couch at 9 p.m. because you fell asleep. And in a haze, you have to get up only to get ready for bed again because guess what? Here comes tomorrow. You've got to do it all over again. And day after day, moment after moment, this adds up to you just feeling stuck, feeling lost, feeling purposeless, and maybe even worthless. And sure, your day might not pan out exactly like I just described, but consider it my parable then. Apply the sentiment to your life and tell me, can you see yourself in there? I think far too many of us can. We go through life covered in the darkness of our routine and our patterns and the monotony of it all with no end in sight. We find ourselves losing the will to continue on because if this feeling, this darkness, this lostness is all there is, then why bother? Why continue? If that's you, then I'm here to tell you. Jesus is here to tell you that you aren't broken. You're not messed up beyond repair. You're not too far gone. You're just lost. And the hope of Jesus is that anything that is lost can be found. Your situation doesn't have to be the pattern of your life forever. Your feeling of stuckness can be undone. Your life can find purpose in a path forward. There is the possibility of waking up every day knowing that there is hope for the future, no matter what situation you're in. Because even if the world is crashing down around you, you'll still be in the presence, in the peace of the God who would light up any darkness, overturn any obstacle, and break through any noise to find you. You might be the lost coin right now, but you don't have to be any longer. Because God has not and will not stop searching for you until you're found. Like the woman in the story, God's every thought, his every action, his every move, every motive, all points back to finding you, the one who is lost. And that's the great irony of this parable, isn't it? God isn't a poor woman who can't get what he needs if he doesn't find a coin. Everything that exists was created by God. He has authority and dominion and power over all of it. And for all intents and purposes, you don't have to matter to him. I don't have to matter to him. And yet, when it comes to finding you, he's as desperate and deliberate as a poor woman who lost one of her 10 coins. There is nothing he wouldn't do in order to see you come back home to him. I'm not just blowing smoke or saying churchy things. I lived this. I've grown up in church my whole life. And I've had exposure to God my whole life. But when I was 13, I got caught in a porn addiction that would last seriously for 12 years or so. And all middle school, all high school, all college, and even a little beyond, I was lost. I presented as found. I looked like I was found. I even would have said that if I was using that language. Because I was leading in church, leading at this church, leading at churches in college. So I looked found, but I was lost. I was lost here. And I wasn't who I said I was. Fast forward to 2014, I get married to Megan. And she knows about my past, but, I presented it in such a way that it was really the past, when really it was the current, the now. And so I, for almost a year in our relationship, did the same thing, presented as found, but was still lost. And it's not, the only way I can describe it is the Holy Spirit said, what are we doing? We got to do something about this. And I'll never forget it. It was September 1st, 2015. Living in an apartment at the time. Megan's at work. I laid down on my floor, face down on my floor, arms outstretched. Said some prayer, some short prayer, something like, God, whatever it costs me, whatever it takes, God, I need you to take this from me. Because I have to be the person that I say that I am. I have to be the person that you made me to be for Megan and for you. It's short, and when I was done, said amen, I felt a physical pain in my chest from that moment on. Keep in mind, I've been keeping this secret for 12 years, so at that point, it wasn't really nothing for me to just do what I was going to do and then, say sorry and then just not talk about it anymore. I was numb to it. But this pain was a real physical pain in my chest that I couldn't shake. And for less than 24 hours, I tried to do that thing. I tried to just push it over here. but I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I was just sweating all the time. I got what I asked for. So the next day, less than 24 hours later, I told Megan. And she was mad. And she should have been. She had every right to be. But we decided together that we needed to just go away, to get away from the noise, go to a friend's cabin, had a cabin in the mountains, and sort it out, reconnect. So we were there, and there's a lot to that weekend that I could talk about, but before the weekend was over, it was the most defining moment of my life. She looked at me and she said, I love you. And your past doesn't have to define you anymore. And right there, I was found. And through my wife, who I had hurt, who I had been unfaithful to in that way, God found me. I'm not some sinless, perfect person today, but I am found today. And you can experience the same thing that I did. Removing the darkness and the lostness around you and experiencing the joy and the light of being found by God. Because God, who owns it all, who made it all, his singular priority is to find you. There is nothing he wouldn't uncover or move over or make you feel inside of you in order to find you. And that's the truth of this story. You can be found. So as we play one more song, my hope is that at least at the beginning of the song, we could sing some lyrics over to you that have come to mean so much to me. And that you might know that you could be lost today, but you can also be found today. That there is nothing the God of the universe wouldn't do to find you. Amen.
There's no shadow he won't light up, mountain he won't climb up, coming after you. There's no wall he won't kick down, lie he won't tear down, coming after you. There's no shadow he won't light up, mountain he won't climb up, coming after you. There's no wall he won't kick down, lie he won't tear down, coming after you. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain he won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall he won't kick down, lie he won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
There's no shadow God won't light up, no obstacle he won't overcome, and noise that he won't break through to find you. And if you're lost in the hopeless monotony of daily life, know that there is a God who would stop at nothing to find you and bring you home. And if you've been found, know that God wants to use you to celebrate when the lost are found, and that he wants to use you to find them. Now, if you're ready to embrace the life that God is offering you, I'd be happy to talk with you. You can reach me at mark.tapscott@pccwired.net, and we can talk about your right next step. Come back next week as we continue in our series, That's So Metal. We'll see you then.